All right, we have these two bikes here. We're going to talk about two different things that you might be interested in bikes. These are both incredibly good values for two different needs that you might have. So maybe you're new to e-bikes, maybe you don't know that much about them, maybe you just kind of want to know what kind of things to know because you're looking at buying one. And I'm going to talk to you guys about the things that might be important to you. So this one here is, in my opinion, the best commuter. And some people say, well, why would you want a fat tire bike for a commuter? We'll talk about that in a second. This one is, in my opinion, the best inexpensive folding. They're both super good value bikes. But they have two completely different uses. So when you get a folding bike, why is this one of the best? It's very, very lightweight. So when you have a folding bike, the whole idea is you can fold it, put it in the trunk of your car and take it somewhere, and it goes down to really compact space. That's important, and it needs to have a decent range. So that bike meets that need. This bike meets another need. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Magicycle, and this is going to reach more people possibly than I have both bikes, because I have two different needs. So this one is probably, in my opinion, the best commuter. And one of the reasons is, it has a lot of reasons. There's a whole bunch of things that you need when you have a commuter. One thing is when you get to work, you don't want to be beat up. You don't want to show up to work and just got off your bicycle and already be tired when you get to work. And that's the key thing. That's one of the reasons you want the fat tire bike. And there's another reason to have the fat tire bike is, let's say part of your commute you could cut through a field. Okay, this bike will do that no problem. If you have a skinny tire bike, you're going to get beat up a lot more by the time you get to work. And you can get more range out of one of those things, but you're going to lose on the other end. So let's talk about it. One of the things that I found that you really need on a commuter bike is you need a headlight, because half of the year you're going to have times when it's too dark to ride. So you're going to want a headlight. This one has a headlight and a tail light, and I believe it has a brake light too. My daughter was hitting the brakes when she was riding it, and I saw the brake light turn on. So it has suspension. So when you're riding to work, you may not be in the most ideal clothing or whatever, and you don't want to get beat up by the road. So two things that help you are the fat tires, the fact that it has fat tires, and the suspension on this bike here. For commuting, having suspension is really important. The other thing that's really important is range. So this one is a 52 volt bike. Now you might say to yourself, what's the difference? What is the difference between a 52 volt and a 24 and a 36? 750 watt motor versus a 500 watt motor, or 250 if you're really going cheap. What's the difference? What do I need? Whatever I need. It's basically, the most important thing is range. You need a bike when you're commuting that has a decent range. And what eats that up is hills. So let's say you're riding it and you're going up, and part of your commute's going through any kind of a hill. We're talking about just a slight upgrade. That is going to eat up battery power a lot more than if it's flat. So you're going to want a bike with more range, and that's why the 52 volt is huge and really important. And this has a 15 amp hour battery. And so you might say, hey, I can get a 20 amp hour battery, and that might be better. Well, when you start doing that, when you start getting bigger than 15 amp hours, it starts to get heavy. The battery starts to get more heavy. So you kind of run into, there's a happy medium in there. And that's where this bike, I believe they've made it to a happy medium where it's 15 amp hours, 52 volts. And sometimes a 72 volt can be better. Some guys go with that. Then you run into more of an expense issue, because to get a 72 volt battery, to be stable, and there's a whole bunch of stability issues with that. You start to get those higher voltages in the 52, it becomes riskier as far as charging it, things like that. I've actually seen guys with 72-volt batteries that they got a cheap battery and it caught fire. So this is in that range. So on this other bike here, if you look here, this has a cheaper Shimano. This is a Shimano Tourney. Okay, this thing shifts marginally okay. It's not the greatest shifting. This one here shifts perfectly. So this is a Shimano Altus, so it has an upgraded derailleur system than the cheaper bikes. It also has a rack. Very important, you're going to want a rack on your commuter bike. You're going to have days when you're going to carry something with you. This one comes with that. It comes with a lock, which is nice. Some people say, well, I don't trust that lock. That's fine. Maybe get a better lock, but it does come with one. The other thing that it comes with is it comes with this phone holder. And I think the phone holder is actually really worthy. Some people have said they've changed them. And it also has in it a little compartment to put your bike tools in here in case you get a flat, can happen. And also I put my keys in here, and I'll show you something really quick that makes this bike worthy of a commuter. The battery pops right out of this. Okay, it just comes right out. Just like that, battery's out. Put it back in. That's how easy the battery comes out. So, most expensive part on the bike, battery. So if you take the battery out, you can put it on the charger. It comes with a quick charger. So yeah, it comes with a quick charger, and most of them don't come with a quick charger. This one comes with something 3 to 5 hours, you can be fully charged. So let's just say you're using it and you want to ride a longer range. Let's say, you know, your average person is going to have a different range, so it's all going to depend on how much you pedal and how much, you know, battery use you have, versus, you know, if you don't pedal, if you're going to ride. I suggest pedaling. It does really help the range. Some of the guys say just battery only. They've gotten on flat ground 21.6 miles, which is a long ways on one charge on one of these e-bikes with no pedaling. So if you look here at the size of the brakes, I don't know if you can really tell the difference. Look how much bigger these brakes are than on this bike here. And again, this one's this way for lightweight. These are C-Star brakes. They're really cheap. They don't work that great. These ones work really good for cable brakes, sufficient enough for most people to commute on. At 230 pounds, this thing stops for me very quickly, very easily. So again, I've seen guys go, hey, I got a skinny tire bike, it's my commuter, and to me, and it doesn't have suspension, that's not really a good commuter. That's going to beat you up pretty good by the time you get to work. Those are things that I would look to steer away from. And that's why I say fat tire. The rear suspension you don't really need. That's kind of a waste when you have big tires, when you have fat tires, and you have front suspension. Another really important thing about the Magicycle is it has a really comprehensive what they call a cyclometer, and it also has a really comprehensive pedal assist. So I believe this has 12 magnets in the pedal assist. I don't know how many this one has, but it's not as many because you can feel it kind of come on and off. The pedal assist will come on and off as you pedal, but that one feels more consistent. So this one has a lot more consistency as you pedal. The pedal assist is it's not jerky, it's just very smooth. Again, that's comfort. You're trying to get to work without getting beat up. And there are some disadvantages. Again, we're going to go over those things to having a commuter bike to take with you going places, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this one is really comprehensive when it comes to comfort, range, rideability, and ease of use. This one really kind of does it all. Night riding, no problem. You can do anything you really want other than pick it up and carry it. It is heavy. I think it's 72 pounds, when you run into e-bikes it's completely aluminum. I don't know where they could skimp any on to save materials or anything like that, unless they went with titanium, and then you're talking about a really expensive bike. So you know, there's limitations on that, and this is all aluminum frame, so you got, you know, it's about as lightweight as you could possibly get. Very strong, well built, you know, so there's no way to really take more weight out of this bike. It's still going to have the weight issue, and anything in this price range is going to have a weight issue. Now, another thing I noticed on this bike that is a little bit of a disadvantage, and it's not really, you have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on most places with a e-bike. That's the legal limit in California, at least. I don't know if it is everywhere else, but it probably is. And the gear ratios that are on here are maxed out at about 20. So when you have it in on the big chain ring, which is all it has one big chain ring. I don't know what size that is. It's not as big as the other bike, but it's when it's on the, whatever this is, maybe a 42 tooth, 12 or something like that in the back, 13, it's maxed out at about 20 miles an hour. So you reach that maximum, and then you can just maintain that very easily with this bike. And with the 52 volts, it'll climb hills with no problem. In a 750 watt motor, I think it does up to 900 on a peak or something like that, the way they were explaining it to me, because it has a meter on here that shows you the wattage, and it goes up to 900 plus. They said it's over 1,000 watts you can push. It has more than enough power for just about any hill. So it kind of is in that happy medium. Of course, you could get faster, you could get better, but you're going to spend a lot more money. So typically, the higher the voltage with the same amount of amp hours in the battery gives you more range. So if you figure, you know, there's an old saying, volts times amps equals watts. All right, so volts times amp hours equals watt hours. So as long as you're not pushing the thing to its limit all the time, you can go a long ways on a charge with this bike. They say 30 to 50 miles. I would say 50 miles would be more than a stretch. I don't think, you know, even on, you'd have to be on level 1 of pedal assist and be pedaling the entire time to get 50 miles. And I don't know if it even would do that and be on completely flat ground. Maybe. So if you're looking at range things, if you're looking at different bikes, those are what you want to look at. If they have estimated range on them, you don't want to go by the estimated range they have. You want to go by volts times amp hours. So volts, if it's a higher voltage, 52 volts is in that great category of higher voltage, times amp hours equals running watts. So you end up giving more range when you have a higher voltage. That's why you want a higher voltage bike. That's why this over a 48 is much better. In just a second, I'm going to talk to you about why I really like that bike. But these are all the things about commuters. So if you're looking for a commuter, those are the things you want to be looking at. In my opinion, I've looked at a lot of them. This one checks all the boxes and basically gives you a really good price on that. So if you're looking at a cheaper bike, look at what derailleur it has. This has an Altus. This has a better derailleur. This thing shifts like glass. You just go through the gear, and it doesn't miss a lick. That one with the cheaper derailleur, I'm constantly, you know, having it's always going, making noise, you know, whatever, you know, it drives you crazy. So that's one of the things that's kind of down. I have to do some adjusting to that. This one here, I got it out of the box, ran through the gears, and it was perfect already. Didn't have to do much to it. It was really easy to assemble. Didn't take much time. So all those things were really big pluses on this bike. So for a folding, why is this, to me, one of the best value bikes? And they have a 48 volt version of this. This is 36. If you want to get a little more range, you can get the 36 volt. I have used this bike. I have ran it off-road. It's dirty because I use it. So let's talk about it again. I like this bike here. Biggest reason, 52 pounds, I think it is, 50 pounds, just over 50 pounds. So to get it to be that light and be folding, okay, when they do folding stuff, they have to have all this extra bracketry and all this stuff to make it strong. It's another balancing act. You're trying to get as much as you can in that package. So this thing was about $800. The other bike is about, I'd say $1,500 roughly. And remember, on that one there's no tax. So on this one, I believe I had to pay tax. So that's another big thing right there. I like this bike because it is really lightweight. So for a folding bike, what I was looking at is the weight problem. And now to get the weight down, you have to sacrifice some things. Number one, it does not have a good computer. It has a really basic pedal assist. It has just this thing here. You have mode, and one low, medium, high. That one has 7 levels of assist. This one has 3. Okay, and it has just a power band, so you don't really know when you're running out of power. So for a long range ride, it would be kind of risky. You wouldn't know if you were going to run out of range. I think the battery does take a lot longer to charge on this bike. The battery, to get the battery out, I have to take the seat off. So I have to take this off, turn my seat around, take the seat off, and then use the key here, and then the battery slides out. So, but it is more difficult to take the battery out of. So for instance, if I was driving this to work as a commuter, doing that battery thing every day would get irritating. Because it's 36 volt and it's a 12.5 amp hour, it is not nearly the range of the other bike, and it only has 500 watt motor. So when you climb hills on this thing, you need to really be on the pedals. You're going to have to be on the pedals. It still goes up the hills pretty easily. It's not too bad. 500 watts is doable. 250 is a 350 watt, somewhere in there. Those are just, to me, it's like, no, don't even bother. 500 watts to me is like the minimal for a thing for an e-bike. So the disadvantage, again, you know, it's got cheap brakes on it, but it's a cheap bike. It's a cheaper bike. It's something I can take with me. I can fold up, I can throw inside my truck and take it to work. For instance, I can lift it up and put it right inside here. That's pretty high. If I do that with 70 pounds, or more weight, it's going to be harder to do. But what I normally do is I'll pick that bike up and I'll put it on top of here. Now, if I did that with 70 pounds, I don't think I could do it. Physically, I don't think I have the strength to do that, to get it up on top of there. That's lifting it up over my head. Very hard to do. That's why I got the lighter bike. So again, it doesn't have any lights. There's no lights on it, so when I'm riding at night, you really want lights, believe me. You're just invisible on one of these things, especially when it's black. Nobody can see you. So that's a huge thing that you would want. But if you add that to the weight, that might not work for you if you're looking for folding. There's a place to put a rack, but there's no rack on this bike. And so what I do is I just carry this bag here from Harbor Freight Tools and just put it on my bars. Now the problems with that is it plays with the e-brake and all that, with the brakes, and so I get some brake drag sometimes, stuff like that. There's issues to that. It's not a perfect fix, but it does work for on the road, and I can take that bag off, take that weight off of it. I can put my charger inside there, and you know, if I go somewhere, I can actually charge. The cool thing about this bike is that you can remove that battery. You could literally stop at a Starbucks and give it an hour worth of juice, and it'd bring the battery way back up so you could go further on your range. This one does not have a quick charger, so it's an overnight, you know, 8-12 hour charge. I can't remember what they rated it at, but it does take a long time to charge the battery on this. And you know, I could carry the charger in there, so it does have it available. It would work, but it's not good for commuting or for long range riding, because it does take a long time to charge. Again, what we were looking on this is folding. I wanted one that would fold, stick in the car. This thing will go down super compact. Let's take a look at it. So one more thing I wanted to mention real quick before I fold this thing up is I live in the hills, and For me to drive this bike into the city and back, the later part of the ride is in the hills. And when you're going uphill on one of these e-bikes, they tend to shut down. So if you're in the last 10% of your range, which you don't know what that is on this bike, you do on this one. Sometimes when you're going uphill, it won't pedal assist. It'll just, you'll be riding it and all of a sudden it'll just shut off because the battery's reached its limit. So, you know, those are things that you want to think about. If you live in the hills, you want a bike with additional range. You don't want to be at the very end of your range when you're getting home if it's uphill, or getting to work and it's uphill. You want to make sure you have plenty of range to get there. That's why it's important that 52 volts is really important. And how you can correct, if you were going to get this one, you can get the 48 volt. It's a little more money. It's about 50 bucks more or something like that. But then again, I don't ride this one in the city because if I ride in the city, I don't know if I'm going to make it back. And I'm older and I can't ride uphill. So I'd be walking a long ways and it'd be a drag. So keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to fold this thing up real quick. Let's take a look how quick it can be done. Real time, no editing. We'll just do this just how it is. I've got to put the bars down. I always have a little bit of trouble with the bars. I'm not sure why. I think it's just me. I think I just don't know how to do it right. And then I just flip this thing up here, pull it up, and it folds down to this little thing right here. There you go. Fully folded. The bars, the seat can come out. The seat can come out of there. You can push. I can easily just flip the seat out. Just flip this bar out here. I don't want to set my seat down. I can flip this out, push the seat down. It'll fold into a really compact area. That was the selling point for me. That's why I bought this bike. Wasn't for a commuter. It was because I can fold it up and take it with me places, put it in the camper van when I go out, and that's what this was all about. But if you don't really have that much of a need for that, or if you have a large bicycle rack or a larger vehicle, then you might want to consider a bike that has all the bells and whistles on it, because you probably use it more. With me, I have both. I just bought both of them. So I have one I can run into town on. I can go in, I can buy stuff at the store. I can put a rack on the back. I can put a little bag on the back of it, carry stuff with me. You know, there's a ton of things you can do. That it actually has a place in the front if you wanted to add a basket to the front. It already has that on there. So it really has everything you possibly would ever want, in my opinion, for a bike, for a commuter, or something you'd ride as a daily rider type of thing. Where again, this one here is to take with you places. That's what this bike is designed for. And again, you lose a lot for it, and it's a lot cheaper, but you know, you have to balance it out. Questions that I have seen people say, and some people have said, hey, I want a bike that's 40 pounds, that folding, that I can use as a commuter. You guys, that's impossible. Okay, that's really impossible to do. You're and under $650. There just isn't anything that works like that. Okay, the batteries are really expensive to make. They're really expensive. You know, for instance, I think this bike right here, again, this is like with the coupon. If you look in the thing down below, right today, I don't know, that's going to change probably because inflation is going like crazy. That one is $15.89. You can drop a coupon that I got in the comment section or whatever. I'll have it down there, I think. And right now they're offering $100 off of it. How long will they do that for? I don't know. But it includes tax. There, if you read the website, it does include the tax. I don't know what this one cost. I bought this on eBay. I had to pay tax. It was around $800. Okay, so it's a big difference in price, but there's a big difference in range, benefits, rideability. The gears work better on that one. The The 750 watt motor climbs hills better. The 52 volt has more range. There's just a whole lot of good that goes along with that money that you spent. It's not money you're wasting. It's just a matter of whether, you know, what you're going to use it for. If you're going to use it for commuting, then I would say look at this bike here, the Magicycle. If you just want one to take with you places and fold up that's cheap, then the Ecotric is a really good value. You know, you can check their website, you can check eBay and find out what's cheaper, and look at the tax situation wherever you are. Maybe they'll not charge tax on their website, and eBay always charges tax. So, you know, by the time I got done paying for it, it was about 800 bucks for this one. If you want a little bit more range than this one offers, the 48 volt version of it, this is a 36 volt, 500 watts. The 48 volt is a little bit more range. It's going to give you a couple of more miles, all right? 2 or 3 more miles, something like that, on your total range. So what I found is the actual range. I'm thinking you could probably get as much as 30 miles out of this bike here legitimately, riding it normally with like a pedal assist on 3 or something like that, and going 20 miles an hour. On this one, I'm thinking actual range from riding it. I've never ran it out of battery because I know that when it runs out, I've got to pedal uphill, so I don't normally do that. And this is talking about with hills and everything, so your range is going to vary depending on where you live. But this one here is less than 20, so it's quite a bit of difference to go to that one. And if you think, you know, well, hey, this is 500 watts, 36 volt, 12.5 amp hours, it seems like it's almost the same as that one, but it's because it's 52 volt, 750 watt, and 15 amp hours. It just has more running watts, and it is heavier, and it's a little bit heavier. It doesn't really feel very heavy when I ride it. It's not like a motorcycle, that's for sure. They're both very lightweight compared to motorcycles. And you know, when I ride this one here, if I'm on a long range ride, I don't want to be on a long range ride because it beats me up a bit. Even though it has the fat tires, if it didn't have the fat tires, it would be horrible to ride, in my opinion. You know, this thing, if it didn't have fat tires. So fat tires are really a benefit to look at. You know, if you go with, maybe you could even go with, let's say you went with small tires and full suspension, that might be something to look at too. But I'm just trying to weigh it out for you and kind of give you some insight as to what you're looking at when you buy one of these things. You know, I haven't seen a lot of people that explained all this stuff, and these are really the key important things to me when I bought mine. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Let's hope this helps. Please like, share, and subscribe, and see what your comments are. Talk to you in the next one.